Welcome to this Live58 webcast on the characteristics of a Live58 church. My name is Jerry Edmondson. I'm the lead pastor at the Fellowship at Cinco Ranch in Katy, Texas. And I'm here with Ken Berkey, senior pastor of Green Valley Community Church. Well, Ken, what are the characteristics of a Live58 church?
Well, I think there's some characteristics that if you're a pastor listening to this, it would be good to kind of do a checklist and see how are we doing in these areas. I think these attributes can be very helpful to help your church become the 58 church that you want it to be. I think the first one really is that as a senior leader and your leadership of the church, that you have the first attribute is that you've been awakened to the gospel mandate. And what I mean by that is serving the poor and the oppressed is not optional in Scripture. They've said there's over 2,000 verses in the Bible about serving the poor. And I think it really starts with this core belief that this isn't a fad or a movement, but this is really God's mandate, that this is part of the gospel to take care of the poor and the broken. This was Jesus's mandate in his mission statement in Luke 4, that he came to preach good news to the poor, to heal the brokenhearted, to set captives free.
So, Pastor, if you're listening this today, you might want to take just a moment and maybe even open up your Bible to Isaiah 58 and follow along with us, and maybe kind of just do an assessment, if you will. Maybe think about these attributes, these characteristics, because we know that there are so many pastors out there who have a heart for the poor, have a heart to join God and be on mission. So this is just a great place to see, so how you doing? So this first one, awaken to a gospel mandate. I mean, how you doing?
It's a great question.
It really is. I mean, it's a great place for all of us to begin. Do we believe that this is a program, something that's just something we can choose not to do, or leave it up to some other parachurch organization to do it? Or do we believe that this is the call of the local church?
Yeah, when it comes to being awakened to the gospel, to the good news, this is not about charity. This is about justice. Jesus came and it was about dignity. It was about the forgiveness of sins for everyone. It was about leveling the playing field. It was about every person is made in the image of God and that every person is redeemable. And Jesus' plan was that the church would be the activator to make sure this happens. We know that the poor are marginalized, they're forgotten, they're taken advantage of. They are the most vulnerable, and the church is supposed to be. The good news is we are their advocates. And so, like you said, pastors, we need to really make sure we own this. This is the mandate that we've been called to.
Which really kind of segues right into the second attribute, which really is a broken-hearted leader. Because I know in my own life as a pastor, I can be so busy and so many things going on, and we get overwhelmed, and before you know it, our hearts are not broken. Our hearts are busy, and we become desensitized to the plight of the poor. And what would you say to the pastors and ministry leaders that are listening to us today? What would you encourage them to do to put their hearts in a place where they could encounter this brokenness that every leader needs to have to see Live58 truly lived out?
Well, you see churches that are awakened to the gospel mandate, who are serving the poor, who are strategizing and mobilizing and budgeting and just refocusing on the poor. Almost every one of those Isaiah 58 churches, the second one of the attributes is a broken-hearted leader. It goes hand in hand. If your heart as a senior leader is not broken towards the poor, then you may preach it, you may even institute some things to help the poor, but it'll have limited success. And so God asks us to go to difficult places so that we can have our hearts broken, because this is where God's heart breaks. So for you and I, it was different situations locally and globally where our hearts were broken. Yours in some of the areas of your city that you just saw, this is not right. I saw it in some garbage dumps in Mexico City. A pastor, you have to go places or find a place to get your heart broken. And I know that sounds strange, but really, that Jesus' heart, he looked over Jerusalem and his heart broke. His heart broke. Yeah. That's why he treated people who just were abused or untouchable. He touched them because his heart broke for them.
Well, there's just that principle that we've all learned at different places in our lives, and that is you can't take people further than you yourself have gone.
Yeah.
And if I'm not willing to go there, I can't take people. I can't lead my church to go there. So it's so important for a leader to have his heart truly broken and contrite and repentant before God, and recognizing that he has to model this and he has to live this out.
One of the things that I love about the 58 movement and Live 58 is they will give you resources, whether it's the movie Live 58 or even trips for pastors in different settings to be able to have your heart broken. And I know that sounds almost self-serving, but you have to go out and see what God's heart is breaking. When you sit in a hut of a mother who's HIV positive and she's passed it on to her children, and you see the heroic efforts of the local church, your heart will never be the same. You come back to your affluent church in America saying, we have to do something about it. So you're right. We must position ourselves to get our hearts broken, because that will make us better leaders.
You know, the third attribute is that once you see and you have that brokenness and you're communicating to your church this need, there has to be in the culture of the church this commitment. I remember I read a book many years ago, it was on systems, and talks about people being committed and how most of the time we're just compliant. We're willing to do something until it costs us too much. And I love it. This guy, Singay, said that the definition of commitment really is doing whatever it takes.
Wow.
And there are many people that
Well, that's what faith is.
That's what it is. It's many in our churches are just compliant. They like the idea and they buy into it, and we all want it really bad up to a point. And when it costs us too much, that's really compliance. It's genuine or formal, but it's not commitment. And God calls us to take up our cross and go to those places of brokenness and of pain and to be committed. And that's something I have to do every day. I mean, I know you do too. I mean, commitment wanes in life, and we have to be committed.
Well, I think it goes back to, again, that brokenhearted leadership. It starts with us having our hearts broken, and then we begin to live this out. And it becomes a lifestyle and a set of values, again, not just compliance or, well, this is what the church is doing now, I better do it. Now, sometimes people start that way, but then their hearts get broken.
Yeah.
But as a church, one of the healthiest signs of a 58 church is that it's in its core values. It's not just a program over here relegated to a few,
super spiritual people.
Right. It really becomes, because you can't really build sustaining strategies until it's really in the culture and in the vision. And we get those reversed sometimes, because the fourth one, coming out of values, then you can make really hope-filled strategies.
Yeah, and we know leadership creates culture.
Right.
Which is why it's so important for it to begin with you.
Right.
Come down to a commitment and then cast a vision for the next really quality of or attribute of a Live 58 church, and that is this strategy that really then gets lived out.
Right. I've seen pastors, I've seen groups, whether it's youth groups, building strategies to serve the poor, but there's not that deep value or those deep visions. And so, like you said earlier, that compliance, it'll only take you so far, and then you really won't, as Jesus said, storm the gates of hell and truly rescue people, which is not for the faint of heart. living out in Isaiah 58 church, it will be difficult, but it's the most rewarding thing to do. But it is not for the faint of heart. So this hope-filled strategy, what I like about, and I want you to talk about this for a second, it's hope-filled strategies because there's so much good news out there about what God is doing through the local church in ending extreme poverty.
Well, yeah, when you look at what the church is doing, there are so many pastors out there overwhelmed by the enormity of the problem. And they're doing good things, and they're doing some things that are really making a difference. They just haven't connected the dots. They just don't see the threads of how they are helping alleviate extreme poverty in maybe indirectly or maybe upstream ways, that they are in the preventive side. They're helping a single mom, find a place to live, and groceries, or changing her oil, or helping in ways that really do, or they're mentoring her child in school.
Right.
So that maybe generational poverty doesn't go on, but they are making a difference. And when your pastors, you're thinking through and evaluating each one of these in your own life, I just want you to be encouraged. I want these strategies to be filled certainly with hope, but to recognize that you're not alone, that we're working together, and that we want to be strategic as well as tactical. We want to work very key initiatives and collaborate and work together to accomplish something that truly is bigger than ourselves. And sometimes we feel all alone, but when I see other pastors working and we have these conversations and we're working together, we can see the end of extreme poverty in our lifetime if we are willing to be strategic in our collaborative efforts, in our thinking, and just watch. And it's filled with hope. That's what I love about the compassion. About how we show compassion, about how we live, this out with the lives of our community and lives of our church. It is truly a hope-filled strategy. The movie's a hope-filled movie.
That's what I think the movie allows us to see, that these strategies are leading to some amazing results. One of the counterintuitive results is really the next attribute, and that is, as we are helping, extreme poverty over the last 30 years has gone from 52% in the world down to 26%, and it's even lower now.
And it's declining, yeah.
When you begin to see HIV go down, when you begin to see the malaria rates go down, when you begin to see these things, and then locally, when you begin to see the impact you can have in your own community, with the homeless, or with single moms, the hungry, you see that part of it. But the fifth attribute is there's authentic transformation within your own people during this. Yeah. This is not just, well, let's go do this. This is the supernatural law. This is God's law, is as we go and do this out there, our hearts are transformed. And this is what's great for pastors. You really begin to see authentic transformation in your own community of believers, your own volunteers. Not just more knowledge, not just more Bible studies, not just more theological, understanding, but it's truly the fruit of the Spirit. This goes hand in hand with this, and I think we can't underestimate this.
We live in a country that has so much, and yet does so little. And when I know in my own church, when people in my congregation will start to look at what they have in view of the difference, what they have can make a difference in the lives of someone who's in poverty. Whether it's sponsoring a child, and they look at, okay, I pay a cable bill that's $100+, and that's 3 kids. But when they begin to see that, all of a sudden they're making decisions, they're sacrificing, and we are always talking about the definition of sacrifice as being giving up something I love for something I love more. And we're always loving, we love our comfort and our conveniences and the places we live and play, and those are great. But then when God gets a hold of your heart, there's something you love more, and all of a sudden you start giving up things.
Right.
And with that hope-filled strategy, and that's transformational. You see people reprioritizing their lives. You see people reprioritizing their time, reprioritizing their finances. And it's happening.
Yeah.
And you're seeing biblical transformation. You're seeing people's hearts radically, not incrementally. You're seeing them totally change how they view the Christian life.
So you just made me think, pastors, have to choose who we lose, so to speak. Who do we want in our congregation? And when you go down the 58 path, you're going to be asking people to have their hearts broken. You're going to ask people to really instill this. And so you're going to lose some people. You'll be people who will probably say, well, I'll go to the church that doesn't challenge me as much. But the fruit you get out of the people that you gain and that stay there and get involved is love and joy and peace and patience. It's the fruit of the Spirit, and you'll say, I love my church. And so we get to choose on this. Now, if we're just trying to keep people happy and things, then the fruit of that is more consumerism. So that's what I love about this. I want to tell pastors, do this. You will have the time of your life. It will be difficult. It'll be hard, but you'll love your people.
I think it's so encouraging for, like I said, senior leaders that are listening to this today, is that really becomes a value, becomes a part of a culture. It is an attribute. We want more than anything else to see our people transformed. And it's coming to the realization that giving them the experience, the opportunity to get their hands and giving this hope-filled strategy, asking them to step up to the plate, to sacrifice and give, you are putting them in a place. You're leading them to the place where God can transform their heart and life. And that's powerful.
Yeah. I saw 16 people that I brought to Haiti. I saw their hearts broken. And they will never be the same. They live simpler. They have more patience. They have less first world problems. There's all of those things. Let's go to the sixth attribute, because you hit on this with the hope-filled strategy, because it kind of goes hand in hand, and that is a clear attribute of a 58 church is there's effective poverty-fighting work. We can get scattered in a million different directions, but I think the 58 movement, what I love about it is this collaboration, this smart collaboration with amazing organizations. Why don't you talk about why this is so important?
Well, there's no doubt about it that there are multiple reasons for poverty in the world today. And there are some great organizations that are attacking poverty at each of the root causes of poverty. Live58 has identified 10 of them as key alliance partners, and those 10 are incredible. And Live58 has built this relationship with them. They attack poverty from multiple areas and directions. And coming to an organization that has vetted, done all the work, knows that they are quality, also has provided the resources there for all of us to get involved with some of the different projects that they're doing. So maybe if your church has a heart for safe water, and Living Water is an incredible organization. They're down in Houston. They're a hometown for us. We've been involved with them and digging wells in Guatemala with them. Maybe your heart is for providing sustainable agriculture. And so you're looking at the Echo Project, and you're saying, so how do we get in there and really help moms and dads have food in their village where they live, and they just don't have access to stuff. So how can we come in and create mentoring and models and food so they can grow that and make a difference? Maybe your heart's something else, but they've got this multiple facet way, and all these resources are there, and it is unprecedented unity on the part of this work. I mean, you've never seen these groups come together to work and to collaborate under the umbrella of Live58 before, and it's powerful. And I think it's setting an example even locally.
Right.
We have many groups locally that are fighting hunger, have food banks, dealing with homeless. Maybe as a first world country we don't deal with the water issue as much, but there are many other things that are right there, and they're modeling, I think, this collaborative effort among need-meeting agencies, among groups that are attacking poverty differently. And we can use it and work at it at the local level as well.
I totally agree. This is one of the biggest attributes of a 58 church. And like you said, 58 is leading the way. Collaboration. This is just smart. This is God-honoring. It's great stewardship, both locally and globally. The other thing I think it levels the playing field. If I ask a lady who is passionate about a mom in Sudan who needs to help her business grow so she can send her Well, good luck going over there and helping her. But if we can help her, connect her to an organization that does microloans, all of a sudden you've connected. Or maybe it's you have a passion for child and it's child sponsorship. All those things you said, Save Water. A lot of our, this allows all of our people to get involved a lot closer to the front lines, which creates ownership.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I just think collaboration is a must.
The other thing I think that you hit on too is that this allows us to empower our people.
Yeah.
I think empowerment is huge in our church. When we cast the vision, they're not sitting there, so tell me, Pastor, what do I need to do next?
Right.
We're able to empower our people to get involved and to really make a difference, whether it's sponsor a child or whether it is give to a project. There are lots of ways that we can work together, and it empowers them. I find them going in locally, going and doing something, serving, making a difference among the poor.
It's just such a gift. And again, going back to this, the 58 movement and Live 58 is allowing us just to be very effective in poverty fighting. The churches, we don't need to be reinventing the wheel when we're not, we don't know what's going on over there, but we can partner with these amazing organizations, as you said, that have already paid the price and spent the time and have the credibility. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and they have the resources and they have the relationships that we can leverage to have access to those needs and be able to help.
I think one of a question someone might have is, before we get to the famous seventh attribute, is why don't more churches collaborate? So why do churches tend to try to reinvent the wheel? Why do you think that is?
I think that's a great question. I can only speak probably for me. I know that certainly in my own life there's been times of pride, self-sufficiency. There have been times where I was so overwhelmed and didn't know where to go. That I felt like, hey, whoever's got the best idea, let's just go with it. I mean, there could be a lot of reasons why I think people don't collaborate. Fear. Sometimes the decision's not theirs. I mean, we've got brothers and sisters in Christ and pastors that maybe listen to this today that the decision to collaborate is not theirs. It's a decision-making body that's part of their denomination or group, and so they find those barriers. And I got nothing but love and grace and no judgment or condemnation for my brothers out there who are struggling with that. But I think we do have to just come to the table and have the conversation. Those that are listening to this and your heart resonates with it, you can become the catalyst. You can become the one that begins to embody this and live this out in your community. You can be one to shout it out. To others shout it out, as Isaiah 58:1 says. You can be the one to do that in your community. Be the one for the clarion call to bring people together, and I think then it can happen.
I think going back to the third attribute, which is the culture of commitment, that's one of the things as a senior leader who wants to awaken his church to the gospel mandate, who has a broken heart, that's the first culture of commitment is. And it may take some time, but really convincing people we have to collaborate. If we're really going to do this.
Yeah, no one church can do it by itself.
Right, so it's creating that culture, that value too of not just having our hearts broken for the lost, but that value of collaboration. Because it's exponential. It's just incredible. You've seen it in your church, I've seen it in my church, and we get to enjoy all the fruits of it, but we didn't have to do a whole lot. We just had to help connect people to the right places. Yeah. The last attribute is the great. It's a great one because it's found in Isaiah 58. I'm glad you had pastors open their Bible up to that, or church leaders, because this just leads. The seventh attribute is an Isaiah 58 kind of church. They celebrate a lot because there's a lot to celebrate.
Absolutely. When you look at your city, and we went around and did this exegesis of the city where we saw where the walls were broken down, where the things that shouldn't be, where systems weren't working the way they're supposed to work, where God's design was not intact. And when you start living into that, it's a powerful thing. All of a sudden, you start having places to celebrate, and you see God at work, and that celebration is in the story. One of the things that is so powerful in the Live 58 video is the story. It's the stories that are told that encourage you, that say, yes, you can make a difference. And even at the local level, when a child is being impacted, when a single mom, when a widow, when someone hungry is being fed, when someone is able to go to school because they're not hungry and they're actually able to focus on their education, you can begin to make a difference. And we just begin to celebrate, not just celebrate the impact there, but also celebrate the unity of the body of Christ. Yeah. That's powerful. Yeah. When churches start working together, and Jesus prayed for it. He said that we would be one just as he and the Father are one. Yeah. And man, when that oneness gets lived out in a collaborative way to serve the underserved, the needy, those who really are longing to know that they matter to God, man, it puts the beauty of the holiness of God on display.
Yeah, the redemption story, whatever it looks like, never gets old. It just never gets old. One of the things that I would really encourage pastors and church leaders is to be intentional with celebration. There are a lot of good things happening in your church. Preach those things. Don't make them an announcement. Put them in your sermons. A lot of people come to church once a week for an hour, and they've been watching the news all week long, and the news focuses on the negative. Begin to celebrate those wins, and what that creates is that's an Isaiah 58 church. It creates a momentum, and people want to jump on board. That's what the movie starts with some difficult news, and then you go, wow, malaria is down, and the church is making an impact, and kids are coming to Christ, and HIV is down, and extreme poverty is down, and more people have access to safe water, and that celebration, people are like, well, put me on, get me on board. I want to be a part of the solution. So pastors, you have to preach and celebrate what is happening throughout the week, locally and globally, because that's the way we are. Human nature is we want to attach ourselves to good news.
That's so true. We say in our church, do for one what you wish you could do for all. And it's that one that you are, just help that one. And you wish you could help all. We're so overwhelmed by the problem, but when you help the one and you celebrate that, it just makes you want to help another and another. And more stories and more celebration takes place. So, yeah, man. Well, Ken, I want to say thank you for sharing today about the attributes of a Live 58 church.
Yeah, you bet.
And
it's great talking to you, Jerry.
Pastors, senior leaders out there, as you have been listening to this, we hope that you have been inspired, encouraged to really reflect upon what it means to be a Live 58 church. Again, we invite you to check out the website and check out all the resources at live58.org and see how we can come alongside you as a pastor at the local church level to empower you on this journey and to collaborate with you and to help you live out the Live 58 mandate.